It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome into Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here. Today's guest, we've been trying to get together for a long time. He finally worked it into scheduling. It's Rear Admiral Kent Davis. He's a Deputy Superintendent from the Center of Domestic Preparedness, or CDP, FEMA, U.S. Department of Homeland Security. That's the last time I'll say that. Next time he's going to be with CDP. Stay where you are, get your pen, be right back. Welcome into Veterans Issues. Today's guest, as I said earlier, is Rear Admiral Kent Davis, and he's with the CDP. Welcome to the show, Kent.
Ken, it's great to be here.
Were you on here before?
I was about 2 years ago.
It's been a while. You wasn't a Rear Admiral then, though.
I think I had just been selected, but I hadn't pinned it on yet.
Okay. Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
Now, you're the Deputy Superintendent for the CDP. And FEMA, what do you do with FEMA?
I am, yeah, this is my part-time job,
Yeah,
at least it's supposed to be part-time. As the Deputy Superintendent, I run the day-to-day operations of a large training center right here in Anniston. We train emergency responders from around the country.
That's at the old Fort McClellan. We call it McClellan.
It is at McClellan, yep.
Mm-hmm. Now, where are you from?
I was born in Montgomery, and military service took me around the world, and I ended up back here with FEMA.
Okay, I saw something in your bio where you went to LSU. Do you still claim that?
I did. I claim it. It's tough in this state to be an LSU fan
That's
with
what I'm
Auburn
trying
and
to-
Alabama.
Yeah, and if you go back to the CDP out there, they're going to see this show, and they're going to know that you don't sport that on your bumper stickers, nothing like that. Do you?
I don't. That's a little dangerous, but they know I'm an LSU fan
They
out
do.
there, but they're pretty kind to me.
Okay, well, that's good. As a matter of fact, I know some people that work out there for you, and they're behind your back, they got nothing but good things to say about you. You must be a pretty good guy. Because,
Well, thanks.
A lot
Thanks
of people
for saying that.
don't do that. But you, last time you was on here, I remember something from it, and I picked up on some notes. You was in other services, too.
I was.
It services or other service?
I served in the Army previously. Had a great tour in the Army on active duty, and I served 8 years in the Navy on active duty before joining the Navy Reserve. So I've
How
been
long
in
were
the
you in the Army?
I did a 2-year tour in the Army on active duty as an Army JAG Corps officer, believe it or not.
Exotic places you got to go?
It wasn't too exotic in the Army. I was at Fort McPherson in
That's
Atlanta,
exotic.
Georgia.
That's exotic. No, I have to agree with you. That's not very exotic over there. But what you and you announced you being with the CDP, but you're wearing the Navy uniform now. Let's talk about some of that first. You're a reserve. You're Navy Reserve.
I am. This is supposed to be a part-time job, but sometimes it turns into a full-time job. And there are a lot of people in this community that serve in the reserve components or the National Guard. We're kind of become the backbone of the military the last 12 to 13 years.
What I talk about all the different branches. I've had CBs and all. How long has the Naval Reserve been around? Is it something?
Your
There you
timing
go.
is great. We're actually celebrating our 100th anniversary this year in 2015. The Navy Reserve was formed in 1915.
Wow. See, I thought it was something in the 40 years old, something like that. But that was where to go from there, because I was thrown a curve on that one. I thought somehow I was thinking it was 50 years. I'm getting that mixed up with a 50-year
World
celebration.
War I was looming, and
Yeah,
so they formed the Navy Reserve.
yeah. But we just come through some celebrations, I guess. All these numbers running together. So World War II, we've been through some of those celebrations. Are you participate as your active duty into that? Or?
I did. In September we celebrated the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. My dad fought in World War II, and I had the honor of going over to Montevallo, Alabama, to the National Cemetery recently for a commemoration ceremony. Got to meet some great veterans from the greatest generation, just wonderful gentlemen. All of them in their 90s now, and they were as spry as they could be and had great conversations. We did a wreath laying at the National Cemetery, and I got to meet a lot of them and their families. Really great ceremony.
They do that wreath across America down there.
They do, absolutely, and we do that here in Anniston as well at the National
Absolutely.
Cemetery.
I had Mike Abrams, somebody we was talking about before. I had Mike and General, retired general from out there. What's his name? Come on. Help me out. 2-star general, retired.
Well, we've got several 2-star generals in the area, I know.
Fort McClellan commander. Well, boy, he's going to be mad.
Watson, General Watson. Oh, General
Jerry,
Watson.
Jerry Watson.
Yeah, great gentleman.
Jerry was sitting here where you are, and he had his cell phone in his pocket. And somewhere during the show, he had forgot to cut it off, and it started playing music. Now, the music, it wasn't just music. It was like Sinatra type, big band music.
It wasn't the Army song?
You know, but it was great music, and it was fit right in because I was going to the break. And I said, folks, that's the time. Music means it's time for us to go to the break. Well, I've seen General Watson several times, and he said he always apologizes for that thing, for having a general officer forget to turn his phone off. That was just a big deal for him.
He's a good man.
He is.
He had played a big part at Fort McClellan and in the life of the CDP and getting the CDP established.
He's a great man. We was talking about September the 11th, but I didn't mean to go off in there. But what do you participate in a lot of those events every year?
I did. I actually attended the September 11th ceremony right here in Anniston, down at the Veterans Memorial Park, and that was a great ceremony.
The one we had down with Luther Strange was there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good ceremony. And traditionally we pause on September 11th at the CDP to remember that day because obviously it affected our mission quite heavily, and a lot of our folks that work at the CDP, their lives were impacted by 9/11. The responders that go through our center, of course, they have to live with the threat of a disaster every day. So we take it seriously, and September 11th is a time for us just to pause and remember what we went through on that day.
You know, on Facebook, every once in a while, I think it'll pop up 3 years ago today. Today, it popped up 3 years ago today, a letter from Luther Strange to me that thanked me for that service up there, handwritten notes and stuff. But he and I and Chief Bill Partridge were down at the end of the Vietnam Memorial after it was over with. He was almost a teary-eyed. He said, I saw something here today I haven't seen. He says, I saw state troopers, I saw sheriffs, I saw police, I saw firemen, male, female. He said, I saw it all right here today, which tells me that we can work together.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we've learned since September 11th is the interagency cooperation and the cooperation between the military and the civilian agencies as well. And you think about how that day changed our lives. I've seen it on both the military side and the civilian side. We've deployed a lot of troops overseas since 9/11. I'm one of them, and I've seen them from all services, National Guard. At the CDP, obviously, it heavily influenced the way we do business, and we've trained a lot of emergency responders out there since 9/11.
So that's basically what you do out there at the, it's trained firemen, first responders like police, fire, EMTs, that kind of.
We do, Ken. Some of the greatest men and women from around this country come through the CDP. We've now trained almost 900,000 emergency responders at the CDP. Just the greatest people you'd want to meet that come through our training programs out there.
That would be awesome to do. I've seen everything from, when I go out there, I see cars from all kinds of law enforcement all over the state of Alabama. And I've heard of people from out of state coming there and some of the stuff they get out of it. And it's refreshing to know that the things they might take from there might help somebody somewhere along the road. And we're running down to less than 30 seconds, so I want to come back, pick up on that when we come back from the break. And we're going to talk more with Admiral Davis when we return. So you stay right there and get you a pen. You might learn something today. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We're talking with Rear Admiral Kent Davis, the Deputy Superintendent at CDP out here in McClellan. Admiral, when we left, we were talking about the people that come through the CDP. Do you know about how many people come through there a year? Is the average?
I do, Ken. Yeah, on our campus here in Anniston, we train about 14,000 state and local responders each year. But we also have mobile and indirect training programs around the country. So we train about 53,000 students around the country each year.
And this is in things like look what to be suspicious for in your community. Law enforcement in Potonk, Iowa can come here and go back, and in today, what's happening today is we have things happening in schools and whatever, in little towns that people never heard of.
Absolutely. It's
So-
much more than law enforcement. We train 10 different disciplines. All of the responder disciplines come through our training. And that's what's great about our training programs. You will have a cop from New York City sitting next to a firefighter from Montana sitting in the same classroom, in some cases, learning from each other sometimes. We have military people that come through. We train a lot of National Guardsmen that come through our programs. And we've really learned, not only from 9/11, but disasters such as Hurricane Katrina, we really learned how to work on an interagency basis and get everybody speaking the same language and responding to a crisis together.
Yeah. Well, when I said the Attorney General in that note said he talked about how we work together in that ceremony up there. And what he was talking about at the end said everybody just kind of put down their, nobody had a turf. Everybody had, he said, I saw a state trooper's hat and I saw a fireman hat, I saw boots, and he said everybody was working together for one common goal, and he said, I'm going to take that across Alabama. Well, a few weeks later, a friend of mine up in Limestone County says, what'd y'all do to Luther Strange in Anniston? And he went on to tell me, he said, he's up here just bragging like everything about how you can work together. He said, I've seen it firsthand. And I thought that ceremony you're talking about, that he got that out of there.
You can, and you know, we learned a lot of this from the military. I saw it in Afghanistan when I was deployed in 2012. It's not only the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force working together, but our allies around the world. National Guard plays a huge role in that. And we've learned a lot on the civilian side from the military working in joint interagency operations, and it's really paid off.
That old saying, the job will get done when it doesn't matter who gets the credit for doing it. You know?
That's exactly right. Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan said that.
Really? He's a good buddy of mine. No, I'm just kidding. That's been 14 years, by the way. Do you think it's 14? It don't seem like
It seems
Few
like it
weeks
was
ago.
yesterday sometimes,
Yeah.
and I think every American remembers where they were on that day. I certainly remember where I was and how it's changed my life.
I had set up a ceremony. I had met some guys up at the park, and they had this Pearl Harbor survivor hats on. They'd come to one of the services. I got to talking with them. We honored them up that day, and just impromptu thing. And I said, we need to do something up here and just have a service to remind people about December the 7th.
Yeah.
So we set up, they couldn't do it on December the 7th because they had to go to Mobile. They had a big service down there but we decided on a date of September the 20th. And so, of course, the September the 11th came before the 20th.
Right.
Well, my phone started ringing about, are you still going to do the ceremony on the 20th? I said, I don't know. So I called a couple of the Pearl Harbor survivors and asked them, what do y'all think? We don't want to be doing this if it's going to be like we're exploiting. They said, oh, no. They slapped us. This is very appropriate that we do this, you know. And so we had a turnout of about 800 people up there
Wow.
that day, and it was awesome. It was just for Pearl Harbor survivors, and they said, by all means, let's have it now. After September 11th, well, we got, they call it Jap slapped, you know, and that's, they just said, let's go forward, and it meant more even coming, you know, just a few days after September the 11th. And so that was a memory that I won't forget in a long time. But these people, I started every one of the ceremonies up here, you know, with have you forgotten? We
Yeah.
don't want people to be complacent.
It is important we remember. There's an old saying that those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. It's true. We need to remember September 11th. We need to remember December 7th. And we need to take lessons from those events. We always need to be ready.
Well, it's good to know that the law enforcement we have in my city and other cities have an opportunity to learn to look at the bad guys from a different perspective as they used to. Guys sneaking around with a hood over their face, that kind of thing. With this, it's a whole different world out there for law enforcement.
It is, Ken. And I was telling you earlier, this past weekend I had the honor of going up to Chattanooga, Tennessee and visiting with some of the sailors that had been involved in the tragic shooting on July 16th. And just listening to their stories just hit home. It's a different world now. You've got to be careful and ready at all times.
I wish there's some things we can talk about, but because of your military commitments and stuff, you can't. But you're a JAG officer, right? Or you was a JAG?
I was at one point.
And for those folks out there, that's legal. That's a lawyer, military lawyer. But there was something, and I'm just going to say this, and you don't respond. But the one thing that bothered me out of the Chattanooga thing was the one Navy guy that had the weapon, and he fired, and he was in trouble. Now, I do, as being in the military, I do understand that. That's the regulation is broken. But I just wish that we could have some common sense things that would overrule the rules sometime. But there again, the rules would be, the lines would just get wider and wider sometimes if we didn't have those. So I'm going to ask you to comment.
Now, I know the sailor you're talking about.
What I know that you're out here at the fort, the old fort. Does the National Guard out there have anything to do with what y'all do? Do y'all work with them too?
We do have a good partnership with the National Guard.
Oh,
Both
you
the
do?
training center here at McClellan, we have a formal memorandum of understanding with them, and we partner with them on specific tasks. More importantly, nationwide, we train a lot of National Guardsmen. They are routine visitors at the CDP. I had the pleasure of meeting the Alabama Adjutant General recently, and he's going to pay a visit to the CDP here in November, I believe, and we're looking at greater partnership with them.
Colonel Keith was my buddy out there. That's
Chuck
you
Keith,
know him?
good
Chuck.
man, another good man.
Yeah, if he just had a sense of humor, you know.
He's not lacking in personality, that's for sure.
He's been on my show, and the people, I had more response to that because he's, you know, it's just like, that's kind of out of character because he did have a, how long you got plans, how long you going to stay in?
I know exactly what's going to happen with me, Ken. I have a 3-year tour as a flag officer in the Navy Reserve, and then it's automatic retirement for me. So September 30th of 2016, I will be transferred to the retired list. So about a year left.
Wow, you hang it up then. But you got a wife and kids here?
I do. I've been married for 26 years and have 2 teenage kids right here in Anniston.
They got names?
Olivia is my daughter and Turner is my son. They go to school right here in Anniston. We love this area, and this has become our new home.
You're going to stay here then after you retire?
I hope to. We shall see.
Great. That is so great. Well, you've, I had a note here one more time. I was going to mention the LSU thing, but I'm not going to do that. But with football season coming around here, and I know Auburn's coming up against them and everything, but there is it
They
something?
beat Auburn. That's probably not a popular thing to say.
Yeah. Well, there's my eagle. But anyhow, we got it less than a minute. But what did I leave out that we need to touch on? If it's
Ken, I just want to say thanks to all my fellow service members, but especially the members of the Reserve. For the last 13 years, a lot of reservists and National Guardsmen have been deployed. I know in the Navy Reserve, there have been 73,000 individual deployments in support of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and other conflicts. It really is a tough balancing act, so I salute them. And that's part of my job as a military leader now, is to thank them constantly for the tough job they do in balancing family, civilian life.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for all you're doing out here at the CDP. We got to run. Be right back with news that you can use. Stay right there. Welcome back, and I appreciate again Admiral Davis coming on and bringing us up to speed on the CDP out there and some of the things they do. It's great to have an agency like that. Remember that we didn't say those words, but for all of you that's out there watching, the best advice I can give you is if you see something, say something. Don't let it go. If you see a bag or something where it's not supposed to be, or anywhere, and just rest assured that we got a lot of people watching our schools here locally, but that don't mean that somebody that's half-cocked can't come in there and do something bad at any given time. And good to know that they're getting some good training out here at McClellan. We got the health fair on October the 5th at the VA clinic here in Oxford. I don't know what the days are for those in Southside and the other clinics, but if you're a veteran, and this is not for the spouses, but for the veteran, you can do your blood pressure, your diabetes test, you can get your flu shots, your pneumonia shots, set yourself up for a shingle shot, all those kind of things on October 5, remember that date, here in Oxford, Alabama. And the Veterans Day ceremony we have is on the 11th at 11 a.m. in Centennial Memorial Park. We talked about the one in Birmingham last week, but we have one here in Anniston, and it starts at 11 a.m. in Centennial Memorial Park, and we have the parade that follows at 2 p.m. on Noble Street. So, and this year we're going to have the Iwo Jima reenactment folks that come over from Birmingham. If you've never seen that, that's the raising the flag, and in the pictures, all the pictures you see, they do it in life, and it looks just like a real picture. You'll enjoy that. So be there this year. We're not going to, I got a note here to talk about unearmarking funds. We're going to be talking about that a lot before we go back into session this year. Just want those legislative people that's out there that's in our area to know that had meetings last week with all the veterans organizations in the state of Alabama, and we're all prepared to take that on, because unearmarking the funds for the veterans of the state of Alabama, we're not going to stand by and let that happen. So just to have a great holidays, and we'll see first of the year, but we are not going to stand by for unearmarking a fund. As I said before, the word veteran on your driver's license is accepted at Lowe's in Oxford, but not in Anniston, and I don't know the other places, but I do know that in the city of Oxford, that Lowe's will take it, and so take that in mind. Don't go in there mad if you don't take it in another one. Now, at the end of this month, I'll have the director for the VA and the public affairs officer from down Birmingham. They're going to do the show. And if you've got any questions between now and then that you'd like me to ask him that are decent questions or not ugly questions, I'll be glad to do that. Because we got one of the finest rated by the IGs and others, one of the finest rated VAs in the United States right there in Birmingham, Alabama. Got another great one down in Tuscaloosa, and they are working on the ones in Montgomery and Tuskegee, but Birmingham is the top. And so we're going to have the director down here. If you got questions, just give me a call. My information is on the screen at given different times, and just give me a call and I'll ask him that question. Let's see what we got else. I got a. If you're watching this on cable and you got someone that don't have the cable, they can't see us, they can go to WEAC TV 24, the on-demand button, to pull us up on there and find us there. We're on Facebook. If you send me a Facebook request, well then I might accept it. Yes, I do. I accept everybody, just about it, unless you're a Democrat. No, I didn't say that. This week's salute goes out to all of America's veterans. I don't salute them very often because I are one, but this goes out to all my fellow veterans. See you here next week on Veterans Issues. Salute.